Joining me remotely, Will Chamberlain, the senior counsel at the Internet Accountability Project. The Supreme Court published their opinion in Google v. Oracle, which was a case to determine whether Google had illegally infringed on Oracle's copyright when Google admittedly copied 11,500 lines of code to develop its own Android products. In other words, did Google's copying of Oracle's code constitute fair use? And the court said it did, siding with Google and dodging Oracle's copyright. Will, what do you make of this opinion?
I don't think it was the right decision. Google effectively is a big bully, and what they did here was they were negotiating a good faith agreement with Oracle at one point to license the code, and which Oracle licenses to almost everybody, in order to build their APIs. And Oracle put in intense work building out the Java API for the use of different companies. And after they decided, you know what, this is too expensive, they just decided to steal it for Android and then use it for, use it to build now the second most profitable operating system in the country. And it's the backbone of Oracle. Now that's, fair use is when you use a small bit of code or commentary for the purposes of criticism and commentary. It's certainly not when you yoink somebody's entire library and then use that to build a competing operating system. That's not fair use. That's copyright infringement. So I think the court got it wrong. And I think it's an example of how it's one more example of how Google uses its monopoly power to abuse American consumers and American companies.
And how does this affect innovation for, say, smaller tech companies or smaller startup tech companies who have an innovative idea for code that aren't even as big as Oracle? Because we're talking about Google like it's this big mammoth, but Oracle's not small either. And there's a lot of companies that are smaller than Oracle who want to be innovative. How is this going to impact them?
Well, it means that, when it comes to innovation and APIs, you're going to see less of it. Especially because all the work you put into it can just get yoinked by some larger company. And if Google decided we'll litigate this for 10 years rather than just pay you a license fee, what happens? Imagine what that says to smaller companies for even different types of software that they might worry about having infringed. Well, Google will just steal it and then they'll just litigate it for 10 years because they can throw an infinite amount of money at the problem and we'll go broke before we can get a judge to agree with us. So, there's all sorts of big, downstream consequences of having this little respect for copyright law. And I just think the Supreme Court really got it wrong. Focused too much on the policy arguments related to, how, what it would do if you had too many people using this content and didn't focus enough on, what are the rights of Oracle.
Right. Well, we will see how it affects copyright use in the future. Thank you so much for your time and your expertise.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.